Today we are going to take benchmark test 1, and as always the first thing we do is look to see if there's a title. If there's no title, then we don't read the title. And then we go to the questions. I'm going to read just the questions for you. I want you to follow along with the questions, and then I'll read the passage. Question 1. What is the main idea of paragraph 7? Number 2. Inside Procrustes' den, Theus found. Number 3. The boxes show some of the events in Theus' life. Number 4. Why did Aegeus return to Athens? Number 5. In the myth, Theus' strength is compared to A. Number 6. What will most likely happen next? The best meaning of the word precede is. Number 8. From the myth, you can conclude that. Number 9. Which of these is an opinion? Number 10. The main purpose of the myth is to. Number 11. The myth says a long journey with little adventure was like imagining a sky without stars. This is an example of. Which of these best summarizes the myth? Okay, now I'm going to read the passage. Follow along with your eyes. Aegeus, the much beloved and respected king of Athens, often went traveling about the countryside. One year he journeyed far to the south, where he met a woman named Aretha. Aegeus and Aretha fell in love, married, and eventually had a child who they named Theus. Aegeus enjoyed spending time far from his kingdom with his wife and son, but he also took great pride in his responsibility as king. Aegeus knew his first duties were to the people under his rule. Aegeus knew that his return to Athens was at hand, and then he would have to leave his family behind. Perhaps our eyes will never meet again, Aegeus said to his wife, but I hope one day to be reunited with my son. I shall leave my sandals and my sword here under the heaviest stones. If when the boys grow up he is strong enough to lift the stone, he should take the sword and the sandals and bring them to me in Athens. Then I shall know that the young man is Theus, and he is worthy to take over my throne. Aegeus tried to console his wife, but there was no comfort to be found in their parting. Aegeus returned to his palace in Athens, leaving Aretha to raise young Theus alone, which she did with much dedication and love. In time, Theus grew to be a fine young man and all the might of a mountain. When he was ready, his mother brought him to the stone and explained what his father had done years before. Theus easily raised the stone and removed the sandals and sword from underneath, put on his father's sandals, and secured his father's sword around his waist. We both know that it is time for me to leave, mother, said Theus sadly. I must go to my father in Athens and show him I am worthy to take over. Aretha fought to control her grief, a sadness she had never known before. She knew there was nothing she could do to alter her son's fate. She could only issue one warning. Stay on the main road to Athens, Theus. In his way you will meet as few troubles as possible on this journey. Theus was not one to ordinarily disobey his mother. However, the thought of a long journey with little adventure was like imagining a sky without stars. So rather than traverse the main road to Athens, Theus traveled instead through the countryside. Each traveler he met offered grave warnings, imploring Theus to turn back and avoid the monsters that lay waiting in the forest and among the cliffs. But Theus was not deterred. Then I shall slay them with my father's sword, he declared. The news of my deeds will precede my arrival in Athens. I will make my father proud before I even arrive. The first monster Theus encountered was Sirion. Sirion would first rob his victims of all they owned and then throw them off of a cliff into a sea, where they were devoured by a giant turtle. Theus slew Syrian and delivered to him the same fate the Syrian delivered to his victims. Soon after, another monster named Sinus appeared.
Evacuation drills this morning. Please hold off taking attendance for a little bit. Thank you.
But Sinus was no match for Theus, who slew this monster as well. Many more monsters appeared, each more powerful than the one before. All of them met their doom at the hand of Theus. For the first time, the people of the countryside began to feel free now to enjoy their land. But one terrible creature remained, and his name was Procritus, the most feared monster of all. Theus had been warned of this monster, and so when he met him, he was prepared to do away with him. Once inside Procritus' den, Theus wrapped his strong, sinewy arms around the creature and squeezed the life out of him. Theus then found a treasure room filled with gold and silver inside the den, which he distributed to the people of the countryside. As predicted, Theus arrived in his father's palace, already a well-known and much-respected man. He was beloved by the people, for he had freed them from their fears and had been generous towards them. As Aegeus watched Theus walk proudly past the pillars into the royal courtroom, he saw the sandals and the sword he had left for the boy. King Aegeus wept for delight, for here indeed was a son he beloved as worthy to succeed him.